And we're back. Hi, everyone. I'm Mike Jungluth, lead animator at Volition. Man, this night is going, it's starting to, like we're seeing the end of it. It's starting to come like rushing toward us. So next we'll have Jonathan Cooper doing a talk on the interactive sequences, cinematic sequences in Uncharted 4. So that'll be getting prepped. But I am here with Zach Lowery, a senior animator at Boss Key and designery type.
Yep.
I think is to quote a previous person. So do you want to give everyone on the stream a little bit of your background first?
Yeah, so as Mike said, Zach Lowery, I'm at Boss Key Productions. We're working on competitive first-person shooter Lawbreakers. I've been there for 2 years now, and before that I spent 10 years where Mike is now, over at Volition. I worked on the entirety of the Saints Row franchise from Saints Row 1 all the way through 4, and then every possible DLC that was incarnated for that. And I was lead animator there on 3 and 4, and it's kind of where I cut my teeth and then moved on.
So what inspired you to get into animation?
It's such a good question. Like I was thinking about this when we were talking earlier. I was never inspired to like just wake up one day and say I want to be an animator. I've always loved animation, loved cartoons and stuff like that, but I was really driven to be a game developer, but I didn't know what that meant. So I went to school. I knew I wasn't going to be like a programmer. So I went to school and figured making games was about like making a character. So I tried to model and then quickly realized that I wasn't a very good modeler, and texturing was definitely not my forte. But then I made it through, and I got into the next class, which was rigging and animation. And then that's kind of when I was inspired to go into animation, because I learned more about what it was. I realized that it was like it brought me back to my childhood of like playing with G.I. Joes and moving these things around and manipulating this puppet. And I fell in love with it because I was bringing something to life. And everybody else's stuff looked really cool. You know, you could make a level and put nice lighting in it, but unless it had animation, it wasn't coming to life. So that's really what inspired me was I could bring something to life and make people feel emotion by myself, and it was really cool and empowering. So
yeah, what is it when you set out to do your animation? What do you try to accomplish with your work?
So I'm really, really big on game design as well, because we're making games after all, and the game has to be fun. So what I try and accomplish is making really responsive animations, and I can noodle things down and go back and forth and trim out frames and stuff like that to try and make something that feels the most responsive. And I have a great team at Boss Key, some very talented programmers that have a mind for game design as well and animation. Shout out to Fishman if he's listening. But he'll call me on stuff like that. He's like, dude, this doesn't feel right, And so it's become kind of an obsession with mine to make really responsive things with animation. And it's very tricky because you're trying to make beautiful things as well, and sometimes you have to sacrifice some of the beauty for the responsiveness. But then, you start trying to figure out where you can supplement that in at a different position. So.
Yeah, I think there's that feeling you get when you do like a really nice animation and like you look at it and Maya, or you look at it on the screen when it's rendered and you're like, oh, that's cool. But that thing when like you get your animation in game and it just feels right, like either on button press or in the way it reacts to something, and like there's something in there that just like hits you in a way that I haven't ever felt it in the same way, and just seeing the animation first.
So I find that like people can, or a lot of people don't even notice the things that an artist would feel really heartbroken to have to remove out of an animation. But if it doesn't feel right, they notice that it doesn't feel right. It's like somebody walking. As animators, to me, walk cycles are one of the most difficult things to do, because everybody in the world sees somebody walking constantly every day.
Yep.
So they can immediately point out what's wrong, even without any type of animation training. So.
Yeah, definitely. What's been a favorite bit of like game animation that you've ever seen or played or made or anything like that? Something that stands out to you?
So that's like asking your favorite film, right? Like, this is a difficult one because there's so many.
Sure.
one of the I don't know if it's my favorite ever, but the stuff that really sticks out to me is the stuff that Rocksteady does with their Batman games. I'm a huge Batman fan, so I'm naturally drawn to the games. But then I became I kind of obsessed over it for a while because to me it's speaking specifically about their combat, right? It's the perfect marriage between the design of the game and then sacrificing to make the animations feel right. So they're doing a lot of things and they're moving across, the level really fast, but they've done it in a very smart way. So all that stuff feels really satisfying when I press the button and, Batman does this really complex move, but it's instantaneous.
Yeah.
Like that and the other things that really stand out is the DMC, the Devil May Cry remake, like that was or reboot, I guess it was. That stuff was phenomenal as well.
Yeah.
What they were getting, they're doing animations that are like 3 or 4 frames, and it just feels magical. Like it's really cool.
Yeah, I know. When I was working on Shadow of Mordor, it kind of has a similar combat system to what Batman does, and really studying in there, right? And it's one of those things where, as you get further in the combo, you almost want to become more responsive so that it feels like you're like getting into that flow state and like responding quickly to all the things, and the challenges get higher because more people are starting to layer in. But you also want to layer in that flourish, right? Because you want it to visually build the same way that it builds in feel and play.
Exactly. Like and it's kind of the reverse too, because the more you're doing in the combo, these moves are more powerful, right?
Yep.
And typically more powerful animations or, bigger wind up and stuff like that, but it's snapping all over. And the flourish is great because one of the other things that I really try to do with my work is put style into things. Like I love stylish moves, and I'm obsessed with the way somebody pulls a gun out in a film. And I'll watch that scene over and over again because it just has this sense of style, or as the kids call these days, swag.
Yeah.
So like I try to approach the important animations in the game and put a little bit of swag to it.
Sure.
Because to me that's what makes. I guess it's just my little piece of that. So if it's how the guy is going to reload the gun, it has to be true to the character.
Sure.
But you can find that sense of style in everybody. Whether they're a super timid person, they still have a style about them. So that's I love to see stuff like that.
Yeah. What would you say has been a really challenging thing that you've worked on before?
Oh man, well, going over to Boss Key, I talked yesterday with tips and tricks on animating first-person stuff. To me, it blew my mind when I first got over there. I was always drawn to wanting to do first-person stuff, having done third-person for 10 years. A decade of that. You start looking for other things to add challenges. So I was like, yeah, first person, that's what I want to do. And, Boss Key was the perfect spot for me. And then you get in there and you're like, whoa, wait a minute, this is really tricky and difficult.
Yeah.
And it's something that over the past 2 years, every time I animate something, I feel like it's better than what I did before.
Yep.
So I'm always fighting this challenge of like going back and looking at this reload and going, man, that's slow, it's terrible. I know how to make it better. So
Yeah. Cool, man. Well, thanks for chatting. I think Jonathan's just about ready. So before we switch over to him, though, if you're enjoying the stream, feel free to donate to the stream. All of the donations are going to the IGDA Foundation, which has the IGDA Scholars and a bunch of different ways of trying to engage the overall community and trying to get in fresh voices and fresh perspectives and supporting developers as a whole, which is really important. So I can't say enough good things about that.
That's awesome.
And so I'm really excited to get that going. We're also working on getting a forum post up onto animstate.com so that after the stream or once it's live, you can go in there and leave us feedback. Let us know specifics of what you liked, what you didn't like, what you would want to see more of. If we were to do another one of these, and we're really interested in trying to turn this event into something that the community can be what it wants. So without further ado, Jonathan Cooper, animator at Naughty Dog, is going to take over and talk about crafting interactive experiences for Uncharted 4.